Welcome back to the Cybersecurity Whisperer, your weekly dose of cyber news, insights, and the occasional Mario Kart reference. I'm Elliott Franklin, and many of you just got back from Black Hat and DEF CON 2025, so even though I wasn't able to make it, we are going to kind of touch on the highlights that I've been able to read about. After that, we're going to talk about hackers that are helping small town water utilities that was chatted about at DEF CON. Also, Agentic AI messing with identity security and some of the latest cybercrime headlines that you can't ignore. Buckle up because, as always, we've got a lot to cover. Now, as you can imagine, at both Black Hat and DEF CON, every hallway chat circled back to AI security. Shadow AI, agent-to-agent interactions, delegated authority, new attack surfaces everywhere. One attendee summed it up perfectly. MCP security is like Swiss cheese. It feels like 1998 all over again. One also shared that AI is like a toddler you constantly need to watch. Some compared it to the mushroom boost in Mario Kart. Great acceleration, but if you don't have steering control, you're going to crash. Here's the bottom line. Adoption, as we all know, is outpacing understanding. Enterprise AI governance, it's lagging. Threat models, they're not accounting for agents talking to each other, and companies are repeating the same mistakes we've made in the past on tech cycles. So this isn't hype. I mean, look at the money trail. Palo Alto brought Protect AI, SentinelOne grabbed Prompt Security, and Noma just raised $100 million. So AI security is white hot, and if you don't have a plan, well, you're already behind. Second thing that was really touched on is security leaders are frustrated because SIMs still take hours to run queries, costs are spiraling, and your best talent is just babysitting log normalization and compliance reporting instead of threat hunting. And so, you've got some next-gen SIMs that promise relief, but many are making the same mistake as the old guard. So leaders are in this weird fog. They know that their SOC model isn't working, but they're unsure what to replace it with. And so the vibe right now, well, it's fatigue, uncertainty, and a desperate search for efficiency. But for some good news, the third trend was AI in the SOC is really finally delivering value. I mean, teams are using it for natural language queries, summarizing week-long investigations. They're using it to translate rules between platforms and streamlining triage. But let's be clear, no one's trusting AI to run detections end-to-end or contain incidents. That AI will replace SOC analyst narrative, it's garbage. What I've heard over and over is without automation, analysts are fighting with one hand tied behind their back, and with AI, they've got both hands free. So that's the kind of balance we're looking for, augmentation, not replacement. The fourth theme was messaging matters. Look, for those that walked the expo floor, some of them should have had red cards to hand out for jargon violations. Too many booths were still shouting AI-powered, cloud-native, zero trust, quantum security. The vendors that stood out, though, they kept it simple. Extended access management or dynamic SaaS security. A clear problem and a clear value. So if you're spending six figures on a booth, make sure your tagline doesn't sound like it was written by ChatGPT on a caffeine binge. And finally, the last theme was a trend that vendors really need to pay attention to, that buyers care less about your website copy and more about what peers and trusted voices say. You've got influencers, industry creators, even CISO Slack groups that carry much more weight than polished brochures. So one CISO even shared that he's never even read a vendor website. He just asks his network what works. So if you're in marketing, that could be both terrifying and liberating. You need to build trust, not fluff. But if you talk about critical infrastructure at DEF CON, they had something called the Franklin Project, and it announced a partnership with the National Rural Water Association to bring volunteer hackers into the fight to help protect thousands of U.S. water systems. And this is really huge because many small utilities, they can't afford dedicated cyber staff. And so, some still run outdated systems with default passwords like 1111. Yes, that was real. So we've got vetted volunteers that are going to act almost like a managed security service provider. They're going to offer vulnerability scanning, patch management, intrusion detection, even incident response. And you've got companies like Dragos that are contributing free tools. So thank you, Dragos. Now think about it. You've got 55,000 community water systems, many that are serving military bases or entire rural regions. Even if a small percentage get hardened through this partnership, that's really a massive boost to national security. Next, KPMG's Adam White raised another red flag. Agentic AI is creating identity sprawl because you've got automated agents that now need system access too, and sometimes with privileges we normally reserve for humans. That means your identity and access management stack has to handle not just users and service accounts, but now thousands of machine identities, each with different compliance implications. So if you think your auditors are tough now, wait until they ask about your AI agents logging into production systems. I mean, the ultimate message, you've got to get governance frameworks in place before you scale agents across your enterprise. Now, this is another frustrating, unfortunate one. This is definitely a darker story. Prosecutors charged a New York man with cyberstalking the widow of slain United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. He left vile, threatening voicemails saying that she and her kids deserve the same fate. I mean, this just highlights how personal data from breaches, phone numbers, work locations, fuels targeted harassment that really blurs digital and physical safety. Experts warn executive protection can no longer be just bodyguards and cameras. Digital risk protections for families is now essential. So we talked about this last week. In Minnesota, St. Paul is still recovering from a ransomware attack. Instead of paying the ransom, they launched what the mayor calls a grand Control-Alt-Delete. Picture this: thousands of city employees lining up at an arena to reset their passwords in person while the National Guard's cyber unit inspects devices. Meanwhile, the Interlock ransomware gang claims 34 gigs of stolen data and it's threatening leaks. So it's messy, but it's a rare example of rapid coordinated response that's avoiding ransom payment, good or bad. The New York Attorney General is suing Early Warning Services, the company behind Zelle, claiming it let more than $1 billion in fraudulent transactions slip through due to weak security controls. So many of you may use Zelle or Zelle, I'm not sure how you say it, with your checking account. The suit alleges that Zelle allowed fraudsters to tie multiple emails and phone numbers, so-called tokens, to a single account, which makes it easy to rotate identities when one got flagged. So if successful, this case could reshape liability in peer-to-peer payments. For consumers, the takeaway is simple. Zelle may be fast, but don't assume it's safe. Finally, Alera Group, which is an insurance brokerage, they just notified 156,000 people that their health data was stolen over a year after the breach, and HIPAA rules say 60 days, not 365. So this delay shows the tension between thorough forensic review and timely notification, but regulators are really losing patience. They're seeing moves towards stricter reporting deadlines, and companies that stall will, of course, risk fines, lawsuits, and reputational damage. So what's the whisper this week? Cybersecurity, it's not just about faster tools or shinier conferences. We say that a lot. It's about trust. Trust in your AI systems, trust in your vendor's messaging, trust in peer recommendations, and even trust between volunteer hackers and rural water utilities. So if we get the trust part right, I mean, the tech really will follow. So that's it for this week's Cybersecurity Whisperer. If you like today's episode, share it with a colleague, drop me a note on LinkedIn, and remember, don't just keep up with cybersecurity, learn to whisper it. Stay safe out there. Thanks.